Every Gen Xer had their own particular routine after a hard day at school. Typically, as latchkey kids, we would come home, pour a big bowl of cereal, and flip on some cartoons, or some game shows, or reruns of the Brady Bunch. But on a handful of days each year in the 70s and 80s, we had to hurry home to catch the ABC Afterschool Special. We all remember them, those made for TV short films aimed at kids and preteens to keep them on the straight and narrow. They were drenched in melodrama, morals, hormones, and occasionally unintentional humor. These educational flicks provided a showcase for budding actors, which will be the topic of one of my future videos. But today, I'm going to talk about those certain titles that stick out in my memory, the ones that automatically came to mind when I thought about ABC After School Specials. And to narrow things down, because there were a lot of titles to choose from, I'm going to focus on the ones that you can watch for free here on YouTube. And I will include a link to each one in the description below. Okay, let's do this. Rookie of the Year. I'm starting off with Rookie of the Year, even though it was before my time. It actually first aired back in October of 1973, but I had to include it because it starred an 11-year-old Jodie Foster as the lone girl on a Little League baseball team. The crowds are actually not kind to her as they boo and hiss when she enters the game, and the look on her face was a hint that Foster had quite the acting career ahead of her. This was the second of 3 ABC Afterschool Specials that starred Jodie Foster, and it came out right when girls were starting to be allowed to play on Little League teams with the boys. It's quite the time capsule and definitely worth a watch. It's even got some really groovy 70s music.
What are you so mad about?
I'm sick of you always hanging around. If you like ball so much, why can't you be like other girls and play in a softball team?
Because I don't like softball!
All right, enough of this yelling.
You are not being fair to your sister, Mark.
Maybe we're not seeing his side of it.
John, we have already discussed this.
You did, Dad. You said you wanted me to play. You said I was as good as any boy you'd ever seen.
You are, Princess.
Besides, everyone's making fun of me. You always have to ruin everything.
I'm not trying to ruin anything. I just want to play ball like you do.
Well, you can. You even look stupid. You look like a boy.
The 7 Wishes of a Rich Kid. 7 Wishes of a Rich Kid aired on May 9th, 1979, and it starred Butterfly McQueen from Gone with the Wind as Aunt Thelma, a fairy godmother who gives spoiled rich kid Calvin, played by Robbie Rist, who we also know as Brady Bunch's Oliver, some serious life lessons. Aunt Thelma appears on the TV and tells Calvin that he has won the 7 Wishes sweepstakes, which he then uses to impress a girl at school, who is played by Sex and the City's Cynthia Nixon, who, P.S., is just as insufferable as a 13-year-old. Of course, things don't turn out quite the way Calvin envisioned. The lesson learned in this episode: be careful what you wish for. And a bonus fact, McQueen also appeared as Aunt Thelma on an ABC weekend special titled The 7 Wishes of Joanna Peabody, and I also included a link to that episode in the description below.
Who are you?
I'm your Aunt Thelma.
That's ridiculous. I don't have an aunt.
Oh, not your family aunt, child. I'm your official special spirit aunt. Come from the special spirit world to tell you that you've won the 7 wish sweepstakes. Isn't that nice?
First the Egg. First the Egg aired on March 6, 1985, and it starred Justine Bateman, aka Mallory Keaton from Family Ties, as a teenager named Sarah White. The plot revolves around a school project where Sarah and the other students in her marriage and family class are tasked with taking care of an egg as if it were a baby. This assignment, which was extremely common in marriage and family classes in the 80s and 90s, was intended to teach responsibility and the challenges of parenting. This storyline was actually done so often in the 80s on TV that it became a trope. As I watched this episode, I started wondering if they still do the egg assignment in schools today. From what I can find, it looks like a handful of schools still do it, but they use lifelike dolls instead.
Honey? Oh, we're in trouble.
What is it?
Mr. Beasley. He's done his yearly cleanup. He's moved everything.
Don't tell me that's where it was.
Oh, I'm gonna find that egg if I have to. Oh, come on. It's gotta be somewhere.
I Want to Go Home. I Want to Go Home first aired on February 13th, 1985, and it stars a very young Seth Green alongside Maddie Corman. And the theme of this episode was divorce, the effects that has on kids, along with the added twist of having a batshit crazy parent. It's all about a brother and sister who go on the run with their divorced mom, not realizing that she's kidnapped them from their dad. But after they all dye their hair, change their names, and the kids start a new school, the kiddos start to realize something isn't right. This one is rough because the mom is absolutely awful and she brainwashes her kids into thinking their dad has abandoned them. And ultimately, she gets away with her nonsense. But I Want to Go Home does avoid the cheese completely, with the exception of Seth Green's wig. And it gave some publicity to the new Missing Children's Hotline and the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children that was established by President Ronald Reagan in 1984.
Mom, the exit for the cave. You just missed it.
Change of plans, my boy. We're going north, into God's country, to the best campground ever.
But doesn't Dad think that we're going to the cave?
He knows. I told him while I was waiting for you.
And he didn't mind? I mean, does he know where we'll be and everything?
He doesn't mind at all. As a matter of fact, he thinks it's a great idea.
Moms on Strike. Moms on Strike first aired on October 19th, 1984, and it was all about a mom who goes on strike to protest the lack of help and appreciation that she gets from her family. It starred Mary Kay Place and a teenage Yeardley Smith, who we've all known over the past 30 plus years as the voice of Lisa Simpson. The strike creates chaos as the children and husband are forced to handle household chores and responsibilities, but there's a lot more to it when watching this episode as an adult. It actually tackles gender roles in the family, the value of a wife and mother as a homemaker. It shows just how important that role is and why the traditional nuclear family is really an ideal for an individual's success, health, and happiness. On the flip side, the dad in this episode is an absolute idiot in most scenes, and that's disappointing. But for a kid watching Moms on Strike, the lessons learned are good ones, including the importance of motherhood and homemakers, family cooperation, and mutual respect.
Honey, don't leave the house without your coat, okay?
I can't. I left it in the movies on Saturday. I don't mind being cold.
Jack, why didn't you tell me?
You don't think they're gonna pick me, do you? That's why you're not even paying any attention to my problems. You don't think I'm good enough.
You know that's not true. I think you're a wonderful dancer. Now, see, this is exactly the kind of misunderstanding that is inevitable because I am so overwhelmed with
Maybe you
stuff.
can take a few shirts to work with. You do them on your lunch hour.
Michael, I don't even get a lunch hour. I'm a part-time worker. I get...
The Day My Kid Went Punk. The Day My Kid Went Punk is probably the most 80s episode of the ABC Afterschool Special that was ever produced. It aired on October 23rd, 1987, with a story that followed a teenager named Terry who decided to drastically change his nerdy appearance, adopt a punk rock look, and join a punk band. It's his way of asserting his individuality and rebel against societal norms. And the look is complete with spiked hair, piercings, makeup, and punk clothing. Of course, this shocks his conservative parents, including his mother, who literally wrote the book about how to keep your kids from going punk. This awkwardly hilarious episode explores themes of self-expression, acceptance, and the conflicts that arise when personal identity clashes with societal expectations, which really tracks with today's cultural issues. Luckily, no hormones were ingested and no body parts were cut off.
Sweetheart, listen.
How can you be so calm about this?
Louise, I'm not being calm. I'm just trying to understand what's going on here. We've obviously failed him somehow.
Well, don't start that, okay? I'm the psychologist. Terry is the best adjusted of the three kids.
Not anymore.
Very funny.
A Desperate Exit first aired on January 17, 1986, and it tackled the taboo topic of teen suicide by portraying the struggles and pressures that led a high school student to contemplating taking his own life, as well as how the people around him didn't recognize what was happening. The purpose of this episode was to shed light on the importance of recognizing the signs of depression and suicidal thoughts and the need for open communication and support. The episode was a deep one, and it starred two very well-known teen actors, The Cosby Show's Malcolm Jamal Warner and Mr. Belvedere's Rob Stone. It was praised for its realistic portrayal of the signs of teen depression and the impact of societal and familial pressures. It's one of the earliest pieces of media that I remember that actually tackled teen mental health issues. It's definitely a good watch.
I want you to have this. From the Hawk.
Why? Hey, come on, you made this for that contest.
Because you've been my good friend. Since Miss Bennett's kindergarten class.
But I'm going to school. Charlie.
Did you hear what happened to Andrea? Also known as Andrea's Story, a hitchhiking tragedy, this episode aired on December 7th, 1983, and as the title suggests, it's about a teenage girl named Andrea who is severely traumatized after being assaulted by a stranger from whom she hitched a ride. Andrea finds it difficult to cope with her own emotional reactions, as well as those of her family and friends. She also deals with the struggle of going to the police and reporting the incident, and the dilemma of whether or not to testify. One of my favorite things about this episode is that a very young Kirk Cameron plays Andrea's younger brother 2 years before making his debut as Mike Seaver on Growing Pains. This is also one of the most memorable episodes from my childhood. It just always stuck out for some reason. I don't know if it was the hitchhiking thing, which never made sense to me, but it's still a good episode. I recommend it. It definitely deserves to be on this list.
What's the matter with you?
Yesterday, we were hitching, and a man stopped. He looked so safe, and he wouldn't let me out of the car. He drove up into the hills. He raped me, Kimmy. I was raped. I was raped.
Well, does your mother know?
No, she can't find out, Kim. I was hitchhiking. She'll be furious if she ever knows.
But somebody has to know. I mean, Annie, the police, we have to report this.
She Drinks a Little. She Drinks a Little, also titled First Step, aired for the very first time on September 23rd, 1981, and it stars the amazing Bonnie Bartlett as a mom with a drinking problem. Amanda Weiss plays her daughter, a 16-year-old who is in denial about her mom's disease and who refuses to join Alateen, which was a group that kind of popped up in the 80s. Haven't really seen it much anymore, but it's kind of like Al-Anon or, teenage kids that had parents that were alcoholics, so Alateen. Anyways, this is a subject that was tackled a few times in after-school specials, and this one definitely doesn't sugarcoat the issue. Unlike some movies where the parent is just a horror show, this special gave fair treatment to the mother, who did have moments of remorse for the bad things she did when she was drunk, and the ending was quite realistic instead of solving everyone's problems by the end of the hour.
That's no word.
Certainly is. Adagio. It means slow. Like a slow movement in ballet. I know something about dancing, young man, so don't fight with me about it.
Look it up.
All right.
It's okay, Mom. We believe you. You won.
No, I'm going to prove my word. Adagio. A-D-A-G-I-O.
You spelled it wrong. You lose your turn.
Ah.
Mom! Go to bed, Rex! No! I said go to bed! Mom!
Schoolboy Father. Schoolboy Father first aired in October of 1980, and it tackled the issue of teen pregnancy from quite the unique angle. This after-school special starred Rob Lowe before he became famous. I actually think this is one of his very first credits, and he was alongside Dana Plato, who we also know as Kimberly Drummond on Different Strokes. This episode is about a high school senior named Charles Elderberry who discovers his summer girlfriend has given birth to his child, so he decides to fight for custody instead of giving the baby up for adoption. And wow, when I watched this episode, it was quite shocking to see how awful the character was that Plato played. She is the worst. Like, we're talking the level of raving lunatic. But back to the plot. Not surprisingly, 16-year-old Charles wanting to keep his baby son turns out to be a terrible idea, and everything immediately goes to hell. Losing just one night of sleep renders him incapacitated. His grades plummet. He loses his lucrative bagging career at the local grocery store. His social life suffers. An invitation to a cute classmate's birthday party isn't a good enough reason for his mom, who works all day and goes to school at night, to drop everything and babysit for him. He yells at the baby when it refuses to stop crying. This poor kid is barely capable of taking care of a hamster, let alone a human being. So yeah, this one's a must watch.
In a case where the father is known, we also need his consent. You can see where Daisy signed. Just sign below. You're very lucky, you know. Before the Supreme Court ruling in 1972, the father had no rights at all. Well, I'm afraid it's hardly solved the problem. Over 1 million teenage pregnancies last year alone. Is there some problem?
You mean if I don't sign this, the baby can't be adopted, and I could keep him?
Oh, no. Just sign that paper so we can get this over with, please.
I'm not quite sure I understand, Charles.
Oh, yeah, well, I do. He just hasn't been around for 9 months, that's all. He doesn't know what it's like not to be invited out to parties. Or have some of your friends not be your friends anymore. Or have to go to school pregnant because I wanted to finish out the school year.
You're right. I don't know anything about that. And that's because you didn't tell me that you were pregnant. What am I, some kind of a mind reader?
Please Don't Hit Me, Mom. Please Don't Hit Me, Mom first aired in prime time, actually, in 1981 as part of ABC's Theater for Young Americans series. And then 2 years later, in 1983, that's when it was replayed as an after-school special. It starred Patty Duke and her real-life son and future Goonie, Sean Astin, in his very first acting role, alongside Nancy McKeon, who we all remember as Jo from Facts of Life. And this episode's about a babysitter who realizes that one of the children she looks after is being physically abused by his mother. Behind the scenes scoop that I found about this episode is that while Sean Astin was filming a scene where his character was being abused by his mother, a character played by his real-life mom Patty Duke, Astin found it hard to cry and would laugh hysterically instead because it reminded him of situations their own family had been in. But then Duke took her son aside and told him, "Look, I took a chance on you. What do you think you're doing? This is my career. This is my life. These people are counting on me. They're counting on you." After that, Astin promptly burst into tears, and Duke signaled for the cameras to keep rolling so that they could finish filming the scene.
Mom? You scared me to death. Sorry. Why are you sneaking up on me like that?
I wasn't. I was gonna set the table.
Well, it's not time to set the table. Go do your homework. Well, go on.
I can't.
What do you mean you can't?
I forgot to bring home the book.
I told you you had to bring it today.
I did. I meant to.
You're lying again. Just like your father. I never know when you're telling the truth anymore.
Honest, Mom. I'll set the table for you.
I said I didn't want the table set.
You don't have to do any work, Mommy. I'll do it all.
I said leave it alone. See? Do you see what happens when you don't listen to me? Do you?
I had with you, Brian. You see what happened because you don't listen to me? I have had it.
Stoned. Stoned is what I like to call our generation's reefer madness. This episode first aired in November 1980, and it starred Scott Baio at the height of his Happy Days Chachi fame. He plays Jack, a motivated high school student who smokes cannabis for the first time, and that causes him to fall in with a fast crowd. Here's how the TV Guide described Stoned. It's so good that I had to share. Quote, "Jack Mellon is a good student, one of the best in his class. He's shy, he has no friends, and he can't talk to girls. Getting high seems to get him friends, but it also gets him into deep trouble. If you smoke pot, know somebody who does, or just want to understand what it's all about, don't miss this very important show.
Melonhead. Want to try some? Might turn you into a Casanova. Why not? What you afraid of?
I'm not afraid. Just don't like pot. How do you know what you don't like if you've never tried it? I don't have to eat dirt to know I don't like the taste. Oh, very good. Did your goody-goody brother Mike tell you that one?
Last chance. Want to try it? Yes or no?
No, thanks. A goon like him, pot would definitely do him good.
Don't Touch. From November 1985, Don't Touch went into dark territory with the subject matter. It's about a teenager who's babysitting a young girl and discovers that she's being molested by a family friend. And this triggers harrowing memories of her own past molestation by her uncle that come to the surface. Yeah, like I said, it's dark. For some reason, Chomo stories were a bit of a trend in the 80s, so much so they even popped up in very special episodes of our favorite sitcoms. This after-school special features two Lawrence brothers, Joey and Matthew, as well as Lisa Bonet from The Cosby Show. Considering the subject matter is molestation, this episode handles this sensitive topic rather well, as the intent of the episode was to illustrate how many sexual predators earn the good graces of their victims' families first before the abuse starts, which is pretty accurate. However, it's pretty obvious from the get-go that Uncle Mike is a creep.
Is she asleep?
No.
No.
Oh. She says she doesn't like it when you're silly. Well, maybe you better learn some new imitations.
Hey, boo-boo. Now, listen to this, honey. No, Mike's offered to take care of Molly and the store so we can go to the trade show. We can leave Saturday afternoon. He'll sleep over Saturday night, Sunday night. Monday's the lightest day at the store. Anyway, it's perfect.
And it's no trouble to me.
Oh, Molly's been having so much trouble sleeping lately. Huh?
Oh, you guys just don't know how to tell a good bedtime story. Oh, she'll be fine with me.
My Mom's Having a Baby. Okay, you knew this one had to be on the list. My Mom's Having a Baby aired on February 16th, 1977, which was actually a few months before I was born. It's really, honestly, like right when I was conceived. Okay, that's weird. Anyways, from what I understand, this episode caused quite the stir because it took such a blunt and candid and educational approach to explaining human reproduction and childbirth, which was groundbreaking for children's television at the time. And after watching it, all I can say is wow, 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 wow. It's the literal talk, complete with pictures and animation. The ABC Afterschool Specials of the 1970s were aimed at a younger elementary school audience compared to the episodes in the 80s, which were more for middle schoolers and high schoolers. This episode is definitely for the younger crowd. The cartoons and the music are a trip. Real-life pediatrician Dr. Lyndon Smith openly discusses sex and childbirth in an age-appropriate way that is typically avoided in children's programming. But it gets so graphic during the childbirth part, they actually had to cut that part off of YouTube. For censorship reasons. My Mom's Having a Baby did get a mixed reaction from parents and educators. Some saw it as informative, while others found it to be too explicit and inappropriate for television.
Dr. Smith? Jim! Jim, that's wonderful news. Congratulations. Well, of course he is. Just a minute.
Dad? Oh, hi. Oh, that's great. Oh, Dad, that's great. Mom, okay? Oh, good. Dad, then I'm fine. Okay, Dad. Bye. I got a baby brother!
The Wave. The Wave originally aired in prime time on ABC in 1981. It wasn't until 1983 that it was replayed as an after-school special. The Wave starred Bruce Davidson as high school social studies teacher Ben Ross, and the story goes like this. After showing his class a film about the Holocaust and facing questions from his students about how the German people could have allowed genocide to occur, he explains it through a social experiment. Ross describes fascism and Hitler's rise to power by essentially brainwashing his class into accepting dictatorial rule in the classroom. This one's actually based on the real-life experiences of a Palo Alto teacher in the 1960s named Ron Jones, and it won quite a few awards, including an Emmy. Like many other after-school specials I've mentioned in this video, there's a lot about it that's quite relevant in today's cultural climate. Highly recommend this one. It's pretty good.
What are you going to do with it?
I'm submitting it to the school paper.
Well, you can't say these things about the Wave.
Well, why not? They're true. Amy, the Wave has become an obsession with everyone. No one's thinking for themselves anymore.
Come on, you're just upset. You're letting your argument with David get to you.
But the Wave is hurting people. Everyone's going along with it like a flock of sheep.
Lori, please don't submit this.
I already have. I know what I have to do.
One Too Many. One Too Many premiered on May 1st, 1985, and it's the story of 4 high school friends who find their lives changed forever when one of them drives drunk with devastating results. This episode has some big names in it before they were stars. I'm talking Michelle Pfeiffer, Mare Winningham, and Val Kilmer. This after-school special is a short, to-the-point message to teens about drunk driving and its consequences. It isn't big on plot, but separates itself from the typical driver's education movie with a surprise ending that universalizes its message and makes a seemingly cliche movie worthwhile. Drunk driving was definitely one of the most common topics when it came to striking fear in the hearts of 80s kids, and this particular ABC Afterschool Special really sticks out to me as one of the most memorable ways they tried to keep Gen X in line when it came to drinking and driving. Drunk.
Every time. It's happened every single time.
Look, just forget him, all right? Forget him.
Let me help.
Forget him. Hey, Tim. It was really, great.
Oh, how would you know? You're always too drunk to taste anything.
Beth, what is your problem?
There's nothing wrong with me. You said you wanted to try, so why are you doing it? Why are you doing this?
So that's my list of the best ABC Afterschool Specials that are free here on YouTube. There are so many more to watch and talk about, and there's also those knockoffs from CBS, the school break specials. So if I didn't mention one that you really liked, let me know in the comments below, because I'll have more videos coming soon about these ABC Afterschool Specials. This is seriously one of my favorite Gen X pop culture topics, so there will be a lot more than just lists. So like and subscribe if you haven't already, and hit that notification bell so you know when my next video is posted. I'm really going to try to be more consistent. Okay, bye.